Have you ever stopped to think, could there be a reason why you were born in that particular month, on that particular day, in that particular season? Perhaps it's just a date on the calendar. Perhaps it's a day you've heard about countless times, a day everyone celebrates like a birthday decorated with cake and candles. But you know deep down this is not just a beginning, it's a seal, a mark, an invitation. They told you time is linear like a river flowing by. But sometimes the river's waters return to the same place. Sometimes they carry the same cycle again. And you chose a moment right in the middle of that cycle to come into this world. Not by chance, unconsciously answering a call. The moment you were born was the moment an invisible threshold opened. It seemed silent. Perhaps it was a sunny day, perhaps a dark, cold night. But the energy carried by that moment, the state of nature, light, earth and air, accompanied your first breath. You were molded by that vibration. Your relationship with time was sealed the moment you were born. Because each month is not just a section of the calendar. Each month carries its own spirit, its own narrative, its own memory. And this narrative leaves a different pattern on everyone who is born. Some months slow you down, some expand you. Some give you an inner fire. Some teach you the power of silence. Whatever month you were born in, that month's spirit begins to walk with you. And this is not to define you. It is to remind you of who you are. Think of March, neither fully winter nor fully spring. The frozen earth begins to crack. The sun is hesitant. The sky sometimes opens, sometimes closes. The scales of night and day are balanced. Some things end, but they don't leave yet. Some things begin, but they don't grow immediately. That's what March is like. A threshold, a gap, a neither here nor there state. And those born at this time carry the same transition within them. These people are children of two worlds. They can easily sink into inner silence, yet they are sensitive to external sounds. They seek balance, but maintaining it requires effort. There is an awakening within them, but it is neither swift nor loud. They seem to be in a constant state of preparation, both for themselves and for others. They sense change long before it arrives. Before words form, before faces change, before the wind finds its direction, they are there, with intuition, with inner vibration, with wordless wisdom. But this is not unique to March. Every month carries its own inner motif. Some draw people inward, others push them outward. Some whisper patience into your ear, others burn with passion. Some teach you to build, others to let go. And when you are born in that month, you are sealed with that message. Perhaps it was called personality, it was called character trait. But these superficial definitions are only the shell of what it is. The moment you were born, you became part of a much older story, part of a cycle, part of a pattern. And now that pattern is reminding you of itself, so that you can hear your own voice again, to reconnect with what you carry within you, but have not yet named. This narrative is not to shape you, it is to help you see the shape that already exists, to hear the pattern that already flows within you, to recognize the path you are already walking, because you are already walking a pattern, and now is the time to recognize it. The month you were born is speaking, all you have to do is be silent. If you choose to listen, it will whisper to you who you are. And that whisper, perhaps from a place you have long forgotten, but always known, will come. Some people are born in times of transition. They are the children of those caught in between, the gatekeepers of thresholds. But others breathe their first breath into this life, at the moment when the world has made its decision, when something has fully settled into place. Think of January, think of July. These are not months of indecision. These are the times when nature says, this is who I am now. The season has found its place, found its voice. Winter has settled heavily upon the earth. Summer spreads its light evenly everywhere. Those born in these months are born at the center of time. They have a sense of form within them. They come into the world with an energy that gathers the scattered and fills the void. They build structures. They seek order. They are disturbed by ruins, but this disturbance drives them to build. When they come into the world, the voice of time is clear, so there is clarity within them. They seem unshakable, but this unshakable state is not a wall, It is like a pillar. They can support others as well as themselves. These people inspire confidence in time, because when they were born, they were already confident in themselves. They have a long-term perspective, slow but steady steps, planned but not soulless, disciplined but not rigid. They have high inner resilience and strong external support. And here's another secret: time does not flow the same for all of us. Because time is not a straight line as it appears. Time has its own story. It has a rhythm, it has a soul, it has shadows and light. And wherever we were born in that story, we absorb the color of that moment into ourselves. This color is not our destiny, but it is like a map laid out before us on our inner journey. It does not tell you what to do, but it whispers what you may encounter. It hints at which inner strengths you can lean on, which shadows you may need to confront. Some call this self-awareness, but it is not just about knowing yourself. It is about seeing the pattern into which you were born. Because the moment you were born is not just a physical snapshot, it is a symbol. It may have left you with a direction, a rhythm, an inner melody. And now we come to the real question. What does the month you were born say about the journey of your soul? What call brought you to this world? What cycle are you repeating over and over? And most importantly, where is the wisdom you carry within you hidden? Each month is an archetypal melody, echoing within the human soul. Some hear this melody deeply, others suppress it. But that voice is always there. Sometimes it draws you into a role. Sometimes it brings the same wound back to you. And sometimes, in a direction you can't quite make sense of, there is a trace of that melody. Now we are going to listen to that voice together. We will look at each month of the year step by step, from the heavy silence of January to the call for transformation in November. Each month carries a spirit, and perhaps they also hold the mirror of your soul within them. Remember, this journey is not to put you in a mold. It is to help you recognize the shape you already carry within you. Because these archetypes are not boxes, they are mirrors. They are not there to limit you, but to show you who you are. To give a voice to the feelings, inclinations, and inner vibrations you cannot name. If you are ready, we can begin to explore the symbol carried by the month you were born in. This is not just a date, it is a door. And now we are passing through that door, starting with January. But I recommend listening to every month, because you need to listen all the way through, to discover which month's archetype reflects your character. January, the archetype of the elder, or the sage. January begins with silence in many parts of the world. It is the coldest, quietest time of year, a season of stillness, reflection, and introspection. It represents not only a new beginning, but also a pause to contemplate the year that came before. People born in January often carry a sense of depth, maturity, and responsibility. Even from a young age, they may not always be the most outspoken, but when they speak, others listen. There is a natural wisdom about them, an ability to reflect on life from a broader perspective. They tend to value long-term goals and possess practical wisdom. Although they may seem reserved, they are often quietly determined and incredibly grounded. However, like all archetypes, this archetype also has a shadow side. The sage can become overly cautious, overly serious, or indifferent. People born in January may struggle to maintain joy or spontaneity if they carry this serious energy too heavily. The key is to embrace their wisdom without forgetting to make room for lightness. February, the visionary or revolutionary archetype. February still carries the cold of winter, but things begin to change, a current of change, and the potential for what could be. Those born in February typically have a strong imagination, a love of innovation, and an urge to break away from the status quo. They tend to be independent thinkers who dislike being constrained by traditional structures. There is a rebellious streak in their nature, not to rebel, but because they see a different path. Most are extremely creative and emotionally sensitive, even if they don't always show it. However, visionaries may sometimes feel lonely or misunderstood. They live in a world of ideas and ideals, which can make everyday reality feel restrictive or frustrating. The challenge for those born in February is to find ways to materialize their insights and bring their visions into the real world. March, the archetype of the reborn or awakened. March is a powerful turning point in the Northern Hemisphere. It marks the reawakening of life after winter's cold sleep and the beginning of spring. Those born in March typically possess a deep emotional sensitivity. They feel everything intensely and may have a strong intuitive perception of the world around them. They often carry a spiritual or artistic quality. They have a connection to nature, cycles, and emotional renewal. These individuals may rediscover themselves many times in their lives. Though they may appear sensitive, they are resilient. The danger for those reborn is to be overwhelmed by their emotional depth or to lose themselves in their inner world. Those born in March should be mindful of boundaries and balance their rich inner life with a solid outer presence. April, the warrior or initiator archetype. April bursts onto the scene with energy and movement. Days grow longer, life accelerates, and everything seems to be in motion. This month carries a fiery, active energy of courage, action, and personal will. Those born in April are typically bold, ambitious, natural-born entrepreneurs, ready to embark on new adventures. They possess a passionate intensity and tend to lead without effort. They do not hesitate to fight for what they believe in and bring a contagious energy to their surroundings. However, if the warrior archetype is not balanced, it can become impulsive or aggressive. Those born in April may struggle with impatience or burnout from overexertion. Their growth lies in learning when to act and when to pause. May the archetype of the builder or lover of simplicity. May is the month of beauty, blossoming, and stability. Nature is in full bloom, and the air is filled with a calm power. People born in May typically have a grounded sensory nature. They find comfort in routine, appreciate beauty, and have a deep connection to the physical world. They may be interested in art, nature, food, and anything that stimulates the senses. They possess a nurturing and loyal quality and act consistently to achieve their goals. The challenge for those born in May is to avoid becoming too rigid or overly dependent on comfort. The builder may resist change out of fear of losing stability. Their evolution lies in learning to embrace growth without compromising their deep connection to what is real and enduring. June, the seeker or mediator archetype. June falls in the middle of the year, balancing the first half with what is yet to come. This is a time of brightness, curiosity, and movement. Those born in June typically have quick minds and open hearts. They are curious, adaptable, and socially skilled. They usually have a fun, youthful energy and a deep desire to explore big questions. They are excellent communicators and have a strong desire to connect ideas, people, and experiences. The challenge for seekers is focus. With so many interests and ideas, they may struggle to focus on a single path or goal. July. The archetype of the protector or the nurturer. July arrives with warmth, family gatherings, and emotional richness. It's a month deeply connected to care, connection, and inner life. Those born in July often embody the archetype of the nurturer or the protector, individuals instinctively attuned to the emotional needs of others. People born in this month typically have strong emotional intelligence. They may be deeply empathetic, compassionate, and fiercely loyal to those they love. There is usually a strong connection to family, roots, memory, and tradition. These individuals often become the emotional center of their communities, offering safety and comfort to those around them. However, the shadow of the nurturer can be self-neglect. July-born people may give so much to others that they forget to care for themselves. They may suppress their own feelings in order to keep the peace. Their growth lies in learning to protect themselves as much as they protect others. August, the archetype of the leader or the sovereign. August carries a bold and radiant energy. It's a time of full expression of confidence, vitality, and visibility. Those born in August often align with the archetype of the leader or the sovereign, the king or queen, the one who stands at the center, holding space for vision and direction. August-born individuals tend to have a commanding presence. They possess natural leadership qualities, a strong sense of identity, and a deep desire to make an impact. While they may enjoy attention, it's usually because they feel called to lead, to serve, or to guide others towards something greater. Yet leadership comes with its own challenges. The sovereign can fall into pride, control, or even isolation if they feel misunderstood or unsupported. August-born individuals grow by learning humility, compassion, and the importance of shared power. When in balance, they become true visionaries, empowering others while walking with strength and grace. September, the archetype of the analyst or the perfectionist. September brings with it the shift toward autumn in the northern hemisphere. It's a time of harvest, organization, and preparation, a month that speaks to the mind and the method. It is closely tied to the archetype of the analyst, the one who seeks to understand the world through logic, order, and clarity. Those born in September often have sharp minds and a natural ability to bring structure out of chaos. They are detail-oriented, disciplined, and drawn to tasks that require focus and precision. They may be planners, organizers, researchers, people who feel most at peace when everything is in its place. But the analyst's strength can become a burden when it leans into perfectionism. September-born individuals may be overly self-critical or rigid. They may fear mistakes and struggle to accept uncertainty. Their path of growth lies in learning to embrace imperfection as part of the human experience, and to allow room for spontaneity, creativity, and self-compassion. October, the archetype of the diplomat or the artist. October is a time of beauty, balance, and changing colors. The energy of this month is one of harmony, aesthetics, and emotional connection. It is a period of subtle transitions, where light fades gently and the world takes on a golden hue. Those born in October often carry the archetype of the diplomat or the artist, souls who seek peace, beauty, and unity in the midst of life's dualities. They are usually gifted in relationships with a natural sense of fairness, an eye for beauty, and a deep desire to bring people together, whether through art, conversation, or simply their presence. They build bridges where others see walls. Many October-born individuals are romantics at heart, valuing love, truth, and meaningful emotional connection. Yet the shadow of this archetype is the fear of conflict. Diplomats may avoid confrontation to preserve peace, even when it comes at a personal cost. Their growth involves learning to stand firmly in their truth, knowing that true harmony isn't about avoiding conflict, but resolving it, consciously and courageously. November, the archetype of the alchemist or the deep transformer. November is a month wrapped in mystery. The light fades, the world grows quieter, and we begin turning inward. It is a season of introspection, of hidden depth, of unseen processes at work. For Jung, this time of year aligns with the archetype of the alchemist or the deep transformer. Those born in November often carry intensity, intuition, and a profound spiritual orientation. They seek to go beyond appearances and uncover what lies beneath. These are individuals who are not afraid to face darkness, whether in the world, in others, or within themselves. They are seekers of truth and often undergo powerful personal transformations throughout their lives. The journey of the alchemist is not easy. It involves pain, surrender, and rebirth. November-born people may experience cycles of loss and renewal, constantly evolving. Their challenge is to trust the process and not become overwhelmed by it. When they embrace their depth without fear, they become powerful healers, wise guides for others walking through their own darkness. December, the archetype of the wise teacher or the visionary sage. December marks the close of the year, a time of endings, reflection, and the hope for new beginnings. It is a month that carries both the weight of what has been and the promise of what is to come. People born in December often embody the archetype of the wise teacher or the visionary sage. They carry a blend of maturity and optimism, able to reflect on the past with insight while looking toward the future with faith. These individuals tend to have a broad, elevated view of life. They are often philosophical, spiritual, or idealistic in nature. Many feel called to share what they know, to teach, guide, inspire, or expand consciousness in those around them. Yet even the sage faces challenges. They may become disconnected from the present moment, too focused on abstract ideas, or disillusioned when life fails to match their ideals. Their path to growth involves anchoring their wisdom in everyday life, using it not only to think or teach, but to live meaningfully and with presence. Now you know every month carries an archetype, and each archetype is like an inner figure, a voice that lives with you, sometimes speaking, sometimes just whispering. But this knowledge is not just a reading experience. Real transformation begins with living these archetypes, because archetypes are not just images floating around in your unconscious. They want to speak to you. They call to you even in the most ordinary moments of your daily life, in a moment of choice, in a crisis, in a dream, or in that first silence when you open your eyes in the morning. Suppressing them, ignoring them, or simply keeping them in your mind as interesting facts is to leave that call unanswered. The question now is, how will you live this knowledge? If you were born in January and carry wisdom within you, you begin not only by guiding others but by listening to the silence within yourself. If the wise archetype is within you, you are called to be not the one who always knows the truth, but the one who is not afraid to be wrong. If you were born in April and the warrior within you is urging you to act, you must use this energy not only for struggle, but also for dedication. Living with archetypes does not mean taming them, it means becoming friends with them. To recognize each one, to discern when they take hold of you, to understand when they support you and when they turn into shadows. Because every archetype becomes your ally when you become conscious of it. But when you remain unconscious, it is a silent force that controls you. Living with archetypes means building an inner home. There lives a sage, a warrior, a lover, a child, a teacher, and a shadow. And if you keep the doors of this home open, each one will begin to tell you about itself. Why you feel tired when you wake up in the morning, why you suddenly feel connected to certain people, why the same kinds of challenges keep finding you. The answers to these questions are not only in psychology, they are hidden in symbols. Living with archetypes means giving up trying to find rational explanations for yourself, and instead asking what the echo of what you feel is. Whose voice is this anger? Which figure is this impatience coming from? Which protective part of me is this withdrawal? And yes, sometimes these voices will contradict each other, because there is not just one archetype within us. The warrior may want to go, while the lover wants to stay. The sage may want to silence, while the child wants to speak. It is not about rejecting the complexity of inner life, but being willing to hear it that brings true wholeness. Living with archetypes means not just hanging the map of the soul on the wall, but beginning to walk those paths. Sometimes by simply accepting a feeling, sometimes by writing down the voice within that feeling, sometimes by following a dream, sometimes by asking one of the figures within you, who is making this decision. At a moment of decision, this becomes a silent but deep inner practice. And over time you realize that whenever you see a symbol, whenever a dream envelops you, whenever a familiar urge rises within you, it is not just your unconscious speaking to you, but your soul. Living with archetypes means learning this symbolic language, understanding the soul's own alphabet, and perhaps most importantly, choosing to speak this language. Even in silence, wherever there is light, there is also shadow. And every archetype, no matter how noble or inspiring it may seem, carries a darkness within it. This darkness is not there to punish or frighten you, it is there to awaken you. Because every strength, when unbalanced, can become a blind spot. Every virtue, when lived unconsciously, can become a chain. And the shadows of archetypes are a call to recognize and break those chains. Think about it. You were born in January. You carry wisdom, responsibility was placed on your shoulders at an early age. But this depth may have sometimes distanced you from life. You may have silenced your own needs, suppressing your inner child in the name of doing the right thing. Or perhaps in August, natural leadership, light, visibility. But was there ever a loneliness growing within that light? While you carried everyone else, did anyone carry you? The shadow of the archetype is not merely a figure emerging from within you. Sometimes it enters your life from the outside. The shadow of the warrior as conflict, the shadow of love as dependency, the shadow of the analyst as exhausted perfectionism. And you find yourself face to face with the dark side of your own archetype without understanding what it is. But this is where the real discovery begins, because the shadow does not come to make you an enemy, but to complete you. And only when you can look into the shadow does the full potential of the archetype unfold. Confronting the shadow is not easy, because it often carries the parts that are shamed, repressed, or denied. So the first reaction is defense. I'm not that kind of person. This isn't mine. But the shadow continues to shape you until you recognize it. The shadow may be your repressed anger. It may be the dark side of your jealousy, fears, or desire to be loved. And most of all, it may be waiting behind the masks you wear to reach love. When working with archetypes, the light sides inspire. But true transformation begins with the courage to confront the shadow. When you can ask yourself, what am I experiencing in the dark side of this role? For whom did I suppress this energy? How long has this silent part of me been unable to speak? That is when the symbol ceases to be merely information. It becomes a space for transformation. Remember, the shadow is not evil. The shadow is simply something that does not want light. But when light falls upon it, the magic begins. The warrior transitions from tyranny to courage when they recognize their shadow. The artist achieves self-expression when they recognize their need for validation. The sage evolves into true guidance when they accept their solitude. The figure of love learns unconditional love when they set their own boundaries. You too must recognize the shadow of your own moon. That moon did not bring you only beauty. It also brought you trials, fractures, and inward silences. And these aspects are just as much a part of your journey as the bright qualities. So what should you do now? You have seen the map. You have opened the door to the symbol and heard the voice of the archetypes. But what will you do with this awareness? The first step is not to keep this information in your mind. It is to feel it in your body. Start asking yourself every day, which archetype is coming to the fore in me today? Who is making this decision? The wise one? The child? Fear? The warrior? Notice the symbols in your daily life. A figure that appears in a dream, someone who annoys you, a role you find yourself drawn into. All of these are signs from the unconscious. And if you look closely, you will see that everything outside has an echo inside. Create small inner rituals for yourself. Light a candle. Just breathe. What is today's symbol? Which side was suppressed today? Which one shone? Writing is a powerful door. Write a letter to one of your archetypes. For example, dear warrior, why are you so angry? Wise side of me, why are you always silent? These letters allow the suppressed parts of you to reconnect with you. Do not fear acknowledging your shadow. It does not show you your weaknesses, but your suppressed energies. And without acknowledging them, true wholeness is not possible. Knowing who you are is not about changing. It is about remembering who you are, and this remembrance can deepen a little more each day. Start with small things. Observe the part of you that can't say no. Notice the voice that constantly wants to control everything. Recognize the child who wants to be loved. Then gather them all around a table and listen, without fighting, without suppressing, just by noticing with compassion. Because you are not an archetype, you are their home, their carrier. And when you bring each of them into consciousness, it is no longer them guiding you, you can guide them. Sometimes this kind of knowledge looks like a map, but it is actually like a mirror. It does not show you yourself, it shows you what you have hidden inside. The things waiting to be remembered, the parts of you that have remained half asleep, the feelings you never had a chance to express. And know that these symbols are not limited to the month you were born in. Time flows, turns, changes. Every January teaches you something new. Every July brings out a new feeling. You don't stay the same either, because a human is not a constant, but a rhythm. And when you notice this rhythm, you begin to establish a deeper harmony with your life. This awareness is not just to understand who you are, but to shape who you want to be. Because archetypes do not just explain you, they also call you. Come, they say, claim this part of yourself. Come, bring light out of this shadow. Come, remember yourself. Sometimes this remembrance comes through a book, sometimes through a dream, sometimes through an unexpected word or a loss. Your soul wants to tell you about itself in every way. All you have to do is be ready to listen. And now, perhaps for the first time, you think deeply. Why was I born in this month? What is this archetype trying to tell me? Which parts of myself have I yet to discover? These questions are not easy to answer. In fact, they require a journey, not an answer. And that journey is not outward, it is inward. What awaits you there is neither perfection nor certainty. What awaits you is an open, honest space. Because the deepest transformations begin in silence, not in the noise of confrontations. The calmness of acceptance nurtures the soul. And when you allow yourself to enter that silence, every figure within you, every archetype, every shadow, every light begins to approach you. This is not an end. This is the beginning of a threshold that belongs to you, a door that only you can have the courage to pass through. And now, the journey continues with you. Every archetype is a symbol, every symbol an invitation. You read, you felt, perhaps you found something of yourself. Now what you do with this knowledge is up to you. This is not an end. It is the first moment you begin to hear your inner voice. Archetypes guide the way, but you are the one who walks, and every step brings you a little closer to yourself. What month were you born in? And which archetype describes you best? Write in the comments. Because sometimes a word opens another person's door. Welcome. You are not alone on this journey.